When people first learn about the Finger Lakes region, they usually learn it from the context of it being one of the most premier wine regions in the country. But long before it was known for its vineyards, this region was the birthplace for one of the most impactful movements in American history, which was the fight for women's rights. And nobody embodied that fight more than Susan B. Anthony. Susan B. Anthony was originally from Massachusetts, but moved to Rochester, New York in 1845, which is right in the heart of the Finger Lakes region. And for 40 years, she not only made Rochester her home, but also her hub for organizing campaigns, writing speeches, and preparing petitions. But before turning her attention to suffrage, she was a dedicated abolitionist, serving as an agent for the American Anti-Slavery Society, fighting to abolish slavery, and helping push for the 13th Amendment. But in 1852, after being denied the right to speak at a public meeting solely because she was a woman, she turned her full attention to women's suffrage. And over the next 20 years, she built the infrastructure of a movement, co-founding the National Woman Suffrage Association in 1869 with Elizabeth Cady Stanton. She was also a prominent women's rights activist and key organizer of the historic 1848 Seneca Falls Convention. During this time, she also published a newspaper called The Revolution, which tackled women's equality, voting rights, equal pay, and workplace discrimination. But perhaps she was most boldly remembered for what happened on November 1st, 1872, when she walked into a barbershop in Rochester, which was set up as a voter registration office, and demanded to be added to the list of eligible voters. She argued that the 14th Amendment gave her the legal right to vote as a citizen. So on November 5th, she and 14 other women cast their ballots for the presidential election. And later, they were actually arrested and charged for voting unlawfully. But rather than silence her, this conviction amplified her voice. She continued to travel the country, speaking and lobbying for an amendment granting women the right to vote. In 1881, she began co-writing The History of Women's Suffrage, which is a multi-volume record preserving the entire movement for future generations. And as late as 1905, just 1 year before her death, she was still meeting with President Teddy Roosevelt in D.C. to lobby personally for the amendment. But Anthony died in 1906, 14 years before the 19th Amendment was actually ratified. But that amendment became widely known as the Susan B. Anthony Amendment. So the Finger Lakes is not just a place for you to get a nice glass of wine. It was a ground where Susan B. Anthony built her life's work, cast her first vote, and stood trial for daring to be treated as a citizen. And her legacy is still here today. Cheers.